And now we have Kaitlyn from the real world tonight, from Real World Brooklyn, and she will be sharing her story and discussing equality for all genders and sexualities and her struggle with the inequality and prejudice in the world around her. And afterwards, there will be photos, and you can get signatures and everything, and we are going to be making a line at that door right back there, so a line straight down here. So make sure to follow that, please. And now, please welcome Kaitlyn.
What can I say? I don't do anything normal. So Sonoma, cool. I'm sorry about the bad weather. I had this tendency to bring cold weather with me wherever I go. I started off this weekend in Boston, and it was like 80 degrees. And then I showed up, and it was like 45 and rainy, and everyone's miserable. So I apologize. I'm leaving tomorrow. You can have your warm weather back. So wow, there's a lot of people out here, mainly female. Gotta like that. It's like the 3 straight guys, lucky bastards. It's California, so I kind of expect like this very sort of like liberal town, but how many LGBTQIA, Chinese symbol for chaos, like what do we, like, raise your hand, I'm calling y'all out. Queers, my people. All 6 of you, awesome. That's cool. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Kaitlyn. I'm from MTV's Real World Brooklyn, the most boring season ever. And I am the first openly transgender woman to be on MTV's Real World. And it's kind of the grandfather of reality TV. That's right, we're the vitriol that started it all back in the early 90s. And yeah, so in order to get an idea of how I ended up on Real World, okay, the casting story is kind of funny. So I lived in South Florida at the time, and my best friend in the world, she called me up, she's like, girl, MTV is having a casting call in Miami, you ain't got shit to do today, and I'm your friend, let's go. And as a good friend, as is your responsibility as a best friend, like, okay, fine, whatever. So the first question I asked was, well, what are they casting for? Like, is this like a room raiders thing? Like, what's going on? She's like, it's for the Real World. And I was like, Real World? That's just still, like, is that show still on? Like, that was getting tired when I was in middle school. So I figured it would have been canceled. Like, they should have moved it to Fox and cancel it, because that's where good shows go to die. So whatever, so I drove my friend down to Miami, and I attended this casting call. Now at the time, I was punk rocked out. Like, I had bright pink hair down to my ass, you know, my like little short rocker skirt, just doing my thing. And I was waiting in line, and a cast director comes up to me, and he's like, well, you're gonna wait in line with your friend, might as well fill out an application. What's the worst that could happen? 6 months later. So the casting process, I never expected to be cast on the show. When I was in the casting call, I pretty much told them, like, I am nothing like what you've ever had on the show, transgender aside. It's like I'm well-spoken, I'm articulate sometimes, and like, you know, I'm not this vapid, insipid, walking sex and drama stick. And they kept on calling me back. I was like, I'm gonna have to get a restraining order, like, leave me alone. But then I moved out to Montana. I quit my job in April, moved out to Montana for love. Yeah, out there doing my Hannah Montana thing. And I'm in there, I just fell into Missoula, which is like the spot of blue amongst a state of red. And I'm sitting there at this cafe, and I get a call from California, and it's the executive producers, like all 7 of them, in a conference call, saying, welcome to the family. And my first reaction, my gut reaction was, shit. I had no intention of ever making this show. Like, I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up watching The Real World, and it was a great fantasy. It's like, that'd be so cool to do that, you know, like be an astronaut and a superhero, and then, like, you grow up, you know? So when I was casting, I'm like, well, crap, I have 2 choices now. I could either live my podunk little life out in Montana, raising babies and corn, or I could go on the show and be a voice for a community that has been woefully ill-represented, if not underrepresented, in the media. Like, the traditional view of a transgender woman or a transsexual in the media prior to the past 2 years was that hot brick mess from Jerry Springer. Like, you know, the one that's like 65 years old, looks like a man in a dress, and the drag queen makeup out to the nines. And that was the media's idea of what it meant to be transgender. So I'm like, all right, what the hell, I have a shot. And my friend was like, one of us has to be famous, you have your chance. She refused to speak with me unless I decided to go on the show. So for the sake of a friendship and the community, I decided to agree to be on the show. But there were some conditions, because at that point in my life, I was about to have my sexual reassignment surgery, like the end all be all, like end game for me. And they're like, well, we're gonna start filming in June. I'm like, well, then you'll be doing it without me, because I kind of had this operation that I've been saving up for a long time, and it's gonna happen regardless of your little show. And I actually called it a little show to Jonathan Murray of Buno Murray Productions, like the co-founder of the production company, the co-creator of MTV's Real World, been doing this for a little while. I called it a little show. And he's like, okay, well, how much time do you need? And I'm like, give me a month. Give me the month of June and into July, and then fine. If you still want me, if you can wait for me, because good things happen to those who wait. Better things happen to those who wait for me. So, it's like, if you wait for me, I'll agree to do the show. And to get an idea of like really how I got there, you have to know where I came from. I would love to stand up here and tell you that I had this tragic childhood, and I was such a tormented child. No, I wasn't. I was a happy-go-lucky, if not a bit like a little eccentric child. Growing up, I was in Boy Scouts. Scouting teaches values. My mom felt the need to throw me into organized sports, which my mom was a big baseball fan, and when I was just learning to walk, she threw a ball at me and hit my chest, and I fell down crying. And then my little brother, a few years later, when he started walking, she threw a ball at him, and he caught it, and she's like, "That's my boy." I don't know what she was thinking. To this day, I can't throw a baseball. To this day, the only thing I could throw is a really great brunch. Like, what was she thinking? She should have seen the signs. Yeah. I'm thirsty, so forgive me. Hurry up, bitch. We ain't come here to see you drink water. It's like... Okay. So, waka waka waka, childhood. Yeah, okay. So, growing up, I always felt like I didn't belong to the gender in which I was born into. And it's kind of funny because in Western society, we have this weird, strict dichotomy. You're either pink or you're blue. There is no breaking that gender binary. And from the moment we're born, we don't have a decision in the matter. You're wrapped in a blanket. And the blanket decides what toys you get, how you're socialized, how you interact with other individuals, how you interact with your own family. And all of it is controlled for you. No one says, would you like to be pink or would you like to be blue? All I knew growing up was that, well, boys climbed trees and got dirty, and girls jumped rope, and I really like to stay clean and jump rope. So I never identify with over here. I mostly identify with over here, and growing up, like starting in 4th grade, you're taught sex ed. Well, it's California, so I presume you get sex ed. Like none of that abstinence only. So you know, when a man and woman get really drunk, 9 months later, accidents happen. You're told you get hair in funny places, and like your voice changes, your body changes, and that's what you have to look forward to, or aren't you lucky? So growing up, like very naive and idealistic, I figured, well, when I get older, my body will change, and my body did change in all the wrong ways. It was horrifying. And like around the adolescent age, like from like 13, 14 on, you learn how to interact with your peers. You learn what dating is. You learn about your sexuality. Like if you're a straight kid, members of the opposite sex can't sleep over. If you're a gay kid, members of the same sex can't sleep over. Or if you're like me and you're a bisexual kid, no one slept over your house ever. It sucks. Bisexual people, don't choose a side. Just like pretend until you're 18, and then you can do what you want. Otherwise, middle school and high school is lonely. Oh my goodness. Uh, so it's really weird reconciling your sexuality against a gender identity that you're not even sure of. At the time, I was attracted to men, primarily. I had this thing for straight guys. I don't know what's wrong with me. So I would find a male relationship, but it would be classified as, I guess it could be classified as homosexual at the time because I still had that sort of male facade, and that wasn't fulfilling. That's not fulfilling at all for any trans women to be in, that male on anatomical male relationship, because on the one hand, you get the male attention that you've been craving and desiring for a long time, but the way they relate to you is in a completely different way. Gay men tend to like men, and well, not so much. So I spent a lot of my teenage years alone. I was a very depressed child. I was a very precocious child. So I didn't like people my own age. Like, even to this day, people my own age kind of annoy me. Sorry, nothing against you guys. I just prefer an older crowd, a more mature crowd. Yeah, I was extremely depressed. I was suicidal. All I knew was that I didn't identify with anything. My family's Sicilian. We're raised Roman Catholic. So suffice to say, I was born with a lot of guilt. Just like, I came into this world with guilt. And my family raised me, underneath the belief, la familia è tutto. The family is everything. And everything you do is for the benefit and the greater good of the family. Like you would hear to the family dogma. So growing up in a religious household, I was conflicted. Like, I wanted to do right by my family. I tried to be like, the good little, Catholic girl. But it wasn't working. I had attempted and failed suicide twice. And a friend of mine found out about this camp project that was going on. It was called Unitown/Metrotown, that was being sponsored by GLSEN. It was like this 3-day sort of like camp retreat. Go out there and you learn how to fight all the isms, racism, sexism, heterosexism, all that nice good stuff. So I went out there, and Dee Palazzo, who at the time was the director of GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, she was teaching workshops on gender and sexuality, and it was for the first time I got to explore that amongst other queer, other like-minded peers, and she was the one that really said, well, there's a word for what you are, you're not alone. And that is a very powerful thing. Like, when you're 15, 16 years old, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm all by myself in the world, I must be some kind of freak because no one else could possibly understand what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, and then to find out that there's a name for it, you at least are like, okay, they didn't create this just for me, so go out and find out what you can do about it. And being the geeky kid I am, I went right to interwebs. Like, I went and I Googled everything. TS Roadmaps was just getting started at that time. For those who don't know, TS Roadmaps is a really great site for transgender and transsexual resources, but it was in its infancy stages when I was looking for information. And being in South Florida, for those of you who don't know anything about South Florida, it's for the newlywed or the nearly dead. So you're either like a young 20s couple getting married, or you're geriatric. Like, your life is coming to an end. You're studying for your final exams, So the trans group that was run at the Gay and Lesbian Community Center of Fort Lauderdale was all older trans women, like 65 plus. And they had totally different issues than the issues that I was dealing with. They had to deal with transitioning on an income, like how hormones affected their body at that stage, and it's just, oh my God, it wasn't anything at all what I was looking for. So I was working with the Gay and Lesbian Community Center, and I was doing outreach at the time. I was working with their young new alternatives groups, and I started the first young trans person group. And for like the first 3 weeks, it was just me. And then there was one other person. Then there were 3 more people. And then before I knew it, I was moderating a group of 30 or 40 kids, like ages 15 to 23. Like, that was our cutoff at the Gay and Lesbian Center. And it started something. And I realized, wow, I can do a lot of good. Like, I've lived through a lot of hell, but I can do a lot of good. So at age 17, I decided to come out, be all queer and proud to my mom, and she said, if you're going to live that lifestyle, you wouldn't do so underneath my roof. Well, I can be a little thick-headed, so when she said that, I was like, fuck you, bye, see ya, I'm gone. Like, gotta go, see you when I see ya. And so I left. I ran away from home, age 17, graduated high school, living out of the back of my car. Not as glamorous as I had hoped, but yeah. It was around that time, after I graduated high school, I was a workaholic. Like, that's how I dealt with my issues. All I knew was that I was transgender, like, this was the label, this was what I identified with, or seemed to identify the most with how I felt. And I was doing my activism at the Gay Lesbian Community Center, but that was it. I ran away from home. There wasn't going off to college for me. There wasn't that fun, sort of like reckless time of no responsibility. I worked 50, 60, 70 hours a week. I would dance at clubs on the weekends and on evenings, and the rest of the week I was doing advocacy work at the Gay Lesbian Community Center. If I was awake, I was working, and that was it. Like, if not, I was unconscious, and that was mainly 4 or 5 hours a day for a good 2 or 3 years. So I reached a point in my life where I realized I have some issues, and I kind of need a lot of therapy. So around age 19, I found a therapist, and she was like, no, this is indeed what you are, for the Bible tells me so. And no, she didn't say that, thank God. And she's like, well, I have this GYN that I work with who, will get you started on the hormone track. And that's sort of how I stumbled upon my official transition. But at that point in time, I was already living as Kaitlyn for well over a year. All I knew was that dressing female and living female, that was the only way to stop the depression. Like, that just numbed the pain. It didn't get rid of it, it just numbed it for a little while. And so the GYN, I remember the first time that I got my first prescription for estrogen, I ran into Walgreens and I got it filled, and I waited the 35 minutes, and they like eyeballed me all weird, but whatever, I don't care. I'm from Miami, all stone cold stab a bitch. Like, I didn't care at that point in time. I'm like, give me my estrogen. So I got it, and I took twice the dosage that was recommended immediately, and estrogen. For the men who are here, who don't know from being saturated with it, going to school here at Sonoma, look around to the women and understand you have no idea what they're feeling. Like, all right, feelings as a guy, relatively simple. It's like, am I happy? Am I sad? Am I angry? Bam, like basics, 3 basics. On estrogen, it was sort of like a Charmin commercial would send me over the edge. I'd be crying, be like, what am I feeling? Oh my God, I have all these feelings. Where these feelings coming from? What? Ah! Oh my God, it was crazy. For 6 months to a year now, I can't even watch Lifetime. Like, if I watch a wedding story and a baby story back to back, I've lost it. I'm gone for 3 hours. Don't talk to me, I'm crying. I need a box of tissues and some Ben & Jerry's, and I'll be fine in an hour. Like, estrogen really fucks with your mind, and really messes with your mind. Colors. There's more than just red, green, and blue. Like, there's like, that's not blue, that's cerulean, that's azure, like, there's a whole other spectrum of colors, and you just discover it gradually. Things you never even knew existed, you'll feel, and it'll make you sad. You won't know why you're sad, but you just know that you're sad. And that's what estrogen does to you. That, and I got to go through puberty twice. As if the first time wasn't fun enough. All I know is it started with hot flashes. Like, I'd be like laying in bed, it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning, and I wake up and it would be 1,000,000 degrees, like a cold sweat. And then, of course, like 2 seconds later, I'd be freezing to death. And I didn't know whether I was pregnant or menopausal. Like, it was so messed up, to the point where I was calling my grandmother, and I'm like, I'm having hot flashes. She's like, oh, that's really easy. Just get a cold towelette and put over your wrists, and you're good to go. So learn things from your elders, because that works. So for a lot of you ladies in the audience in 20 years from now, remember that trick. It's functional. Oh my God, it was crazy. And then dating, because I didn't get really to do a lot of it in high school, I started doing it as a trans woman, which dating is, it's fun enough, isn't it? just like outright, if you have that heteronormative lifestyle, it's hard enough to find someone that you're attracted to on a physical level who can hold a conversation where it's sort of like, well, what do you think about the presidential debate? And they're not like, I like rocks. Like, you know, like you need to, that they're not total mouth breathers, you know. You're in California, so they're just not like, I like to surf. Like, you need something going on upstairs. So that's hard enough, all right? And ladies, like, what's one of the first things you think of on a first date? Like, am I gonna sleep with him? Are things really bigger in Texas? Is he really balling, or is that his friend's car? Like, no woman ever thinks on the first date, is that the man that's gonna murder me? Am I going to be the next Gwen Arajo? Are they going to find my body in 3 months in a clandestine grave, and are they going to call my mama? That's one of the realities you have to face as a trans woman, because of that gender binary that I spoke of earlier, it's ingrained into us, into our society. It's a fundamental core of our morality and our belief system. You are either male or female. There's no changing that, no going back whatsoever. And when you challenge someone's core belief system like that, it sends them into a spin. They can't accept what you're saying to them or what you're presenting to them. They can't even believe it's within the realm of possibility, so they lash out at you, figuring that if they strike you down or negate you in some way, it reaffirms their core belief again. And whether you do that on a religious level or you do that on something that's more core to our everyday social interactions, like the idea of gender, it's scary. Because someone who you would think would be really cool and very like docile and calm will go batshit crazy and will flip. They'll flip on you. And the first person that I came out to dating did just that. It got violent, dangerously violent. I was beat within an inch of my life, violent. Thankfully, I'm from MIA and I will cold stab a bitch, and he was in traction next to me, but because I can hold my own, I can throw down. I might look like a lady, but I'll hit you like a man. So you don't want to mess with me. But it was dangerous. And I had to relearn my entire way of life. For instance, being socialized male, no one says, don't go out at night alone. You don't learn that. Don't go to the gas station by yourself after 11 p.m. because you don't know what will happen. Like, no one told me that, so I go out in my cute little mini skirt, and it would, like, I put myself in situations where I was at risk of being injured, if not worse. So I really had to learn everything the hard way, and just like other things about being female. Like at the time, I was dancing in the club, so all my friends were drag queens. So I was getting my makeup tips from drag queens. The problem about getting makeup tips from drag queens is that after a while, you kind of start to look like a drag queen. And that's not cute for your everyday look. Like, I'm not Devin. I can't go to the grocery store with my makeup out to here and my heels. Like, that's not how it works. No. No one told me, keep the hem of your skirt, keep it above the knee. Like, I didn't learn any of that. I had to learn all that the hard way. Thankfully, I had really great female friends who guided me, if not critically, and a butch lesbian aunt, which kind of, very critical, but whatever. She did her Home Depot thing. I did my prissy girl thing. It's fine. We cool now. So at the time, I was still this raging workaholic, still doing my advocacy work in South Florida, only I had changed counties. I'd moved up north just a little bit from Fort Lauderdale to West Palm Beach. And I pretty much wound up doing the same work all over again, because the Palm Beach trans women weren't united, and I had to bring them together. So it was there with 3 other trans women that we started getting more active in the political sphere. We, together, after 18 months, managed to get gender identity and inclusiveness in the Palm Beach County ENDA. We fought hard because West Palm Beach, that's all those rich old money boca bitches. Like, that's just, they're the old Republicans, newlywed, nearly dead. The nearly dead migrate to Boca, and they're primarily Republican. So we had to fight long and hard, but we got it. That was my first taste of political victory, and it was sweet. Like, once I had tasted it, I I couldn't stop there. So given the chance to do the real world, I was like, oh, hell yeah, like, let's go. My community needs a voice, and I've been through enough, like, well, this ain't gonna kill me. Because you get kind of cocky when you live your life as a trans woman, and you look at it, it's like, well, it's not transsexualism, so it can't be that hard. And yeah. So leading up to the real world, I had moved to Montana, and I had decided to go to Thailand for my surgery, much to my family's chagrin. They wanted me to go to see a North American doctor, and I have qualms with a lot of North American doctors. Could you get something that I like to refer to as frankenpussy? Like, okay, I like quality, I like results, and a lot of North American doctors, you get like this hatchet wound and a button on the top. It's like, there's your vagina, and it's like, no. And a lot of the care, like they only keep you there for 72 hours. Can you imagine that? A major surgery, majorly invasive, and they're like 3 days. It's like, call me if you have any problems. Not really how I wanted my surgery to go down. So I chose to go to a Thai doctor who is one of the top surgeons in the world. Like my family especially had the misconception I was going to some third world country, and I was going to some chop shop. Like, I was going to get my car stripped and painted, you know, it's like $1,500, like, you know, get my tires rotated too. That was by far not the case. I had researched, and I had a few friends that had gone to see Dr. Chetawat Tavari in Bangkok. I still giggle. A little ironic that I went to a place called Bangkok to get it removed. So I decided to go out to Thailand all by myself. No one in tow, didn't speak the language. I just got on a plane and went because I'm kind of hard-headed. Like once I set my mind to something, I do it, regardless of the consequences. I've always been more curious than cautious, and it's served me well thus far. So I go to Thailand, and my surgical experience was really interesting. 3 days before, you have a consult with your doctor, and he didn't really speak a lot of English, which was a little disconcerting. So I just like smile and nod. It's like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? Let's go. I paid you your money. I'm here. Let's do this. So the day in the hospital, the day of, there were a million things racing through my mind. Like, it was so surreal because I had been fighting for this my entire life. Ever since I found out like what a transsexual was, it was sort of like, well, that's my goal. So 7 years and a lot of hard work and a lot of long days and a lot of lonely nights went and got me to that point. And I remember my anesthesiologist, who was this Thai guy with a British accent. It really threw me off. Like, he's like, well, your surgery's going to, I don't know, it was weird, it was odd. He gave me an epidural block, which, ladies, I definitely recommend. Like, if you're gonna have children, go for the epi. It was the best 12 hours of sleep I've had in my life. They inserted the needle into my spine, because the epidural sac, and they're like, count backwards from 10, so it was like, 10, 9, gone. All I remember was looking at the clock. It was 1:45 p.m., and I remember waking up as they were wheeling me out of the operating room at 1 a.m. in the morning. So 12 hours straight. Not by any means a light surgery. And the first day in my hospital room was great because I was still sort of like floating off the epi. I'm like, life is great. I love everybody. The next day, day 2 in the hospital, I stayed in the hospital for 5 days, by the way, so day 2, is sort of like I shouldn't be alive, like day 2, yeah. So all 3 people that watch Discovery Channel got that joke, great. So day 2, I was in a little bit of pain. I was in bandages, by the way, in my hospital bed. I couldn't move from the waist down. It was sort of like I was in the bed, it was like one of those recliner things, and I had padding and packaging all through this section. So from my waist to my mid-thigh, everything was padded and packaged in a nice, pretty little bow on top, just like, whatever. So I realized I'm in a lot of pain here, and I haven't seen Nurse Ratched in a little while. So I call her Nurse Ratched because she was just made of epic fail. Like, just, Epic fail, this nurse. Yeah, well, because, see, beforehand, before you go into surgery, they prep the area, and I had laser hair removal. I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. But she insisted on taking a razor and butchering, like, sensitive parts. Like, didn't care, just like, we're gonna shave you now, scrape, and it's like, okay, cut you, remember? It's like, something sharp. So Nurse Ratchet came, and I'm like, I'm in a little pain, and she was like, okay. And so I had to learn the Thai word for pain, which is jab, and I learned that really quickly, because I was in quite a bit of pain. And I was introduced for the first time to Thai pain management, which is essentially prescription strength ibuprofen. I got 2 a day. A day! So I was in just a little bit of pain. So, end of day 2, I'm like, jab. She finally decided to give me morphine, or so I thought. It was actually synthetic morphine. So for all the med students here, you know that 50% of the population has an allergic reaction. Guess who's part of that 50%? The first 5 minutes were great. I was starting to get loopy again, and it's like, this is actually manageable. Like, okay, I can do this. And then it was just... I itched in places you should not have an itch. In places where nerves were still reconnecting and reforming, so it's sort of like I had an itch in a general area, so I'm like, scratch here? No, I don't feel that yet. So it's like just scratch around. And I was like doing thousands of dollars worth of scratching damage. I was like so afraid. I'm like, I could bust a stitch and there goes $5,000. Like, it's like, So I don't know how I survived, because looking back it was easy, but at the time it was like the worst thing in the world. But I survived. I made it through the hospital stay, and they wheeled me back to my hotel. I still have my catheter in, and the catheter is like the coolest thing in the world because you can pee in bed, and everything's fine. Like I was watching the Olympics, I'm like, man, I have to go to the bathroom. Hey. This is where, like, okay, all right. But the second day back in my hotel, they took the catheter out, and I kind of had to learn to potty train myself all over again. Because I couldn't really walk yet, again. It was only the second day after I moved from the hospital, and I was bedridden for 5 days. And all my nerve endings were kind of like doing like this. We're trying to figure out, we're remapping ourselves pretty much. Like TomTom, rerouting path. So I couldn't really walk, and I had to hold onto the wall to get anywhere. And I remember the first time with the catheter out, sitting down to pee, it was like a shotgun blast of urine. It's like, I'm gonna go everywhere at once. Because I kind of gotten used to being able to aim it, like wherever I wanted to go. It was very convenient. It's like I wanted to go here, and well, hey, there it went. Now it was like, no, like weird angles to like shut the side, just like, what's up? How you doing? Go everywhere at once. And even like relearning what it felt like when I had to go to the bathroom again. That sounds really weird, but the anatomy between a male and a female, men have an extended urethra because they stick out. So my surgeon, he shaved out my urethra and he moved everything around. So it was sort of like okay, just sit around watching TV, watching the Olympics, because that was what was on TV at the time. It was that and CNN. Everything else is in Thai, and my Thai is not that great. So I sit down and I'm like, oh, I think I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom. It's like, gotta go now. But after some time, my body sort of, everything got back together. And slowly I started to walk again. And you lose all shame when you're in Thailand, by the way. So it's like, you just lay around in your hospital room, or in your hotel room, naked. Because I don't give a fuck. Like, whatever. My hot body, do what I want. And I was down with my little mirror, like every day, it's like introducing myself. It's like, hi, how are you? Oh, you're so cute. I love it. But I realized I love Thai food, and I was finally back on solids, so I'm like, I want some pad Thai. I'm in Thailand. Let's do this. I can walk again. And I remember the first time I put on clothes, and everything just fit. It's like the first time you get an apple, it just works. You know, it's like everything right off the bat. I'm like, hey, underwear fits. Jeans fit. I don't need all this extra room for stuff that I no longer have. Like, this is kind of cool. Like, I could get used to this. And over time, my jeans got tighter until I, was relegated to just wearing underwear, as everyone has seen. And don't worry, Sonoma, like your support columns are safe, I promise. So, yeah, all 7 people who watched the episode. Great. Gettysburg, I took up pole dancing. I was a little drunk. Don't hold it against me. Shit happens. So I returned home 3 weeks after my surgery to get that phone call from Jonathan Murray. He's like, "Are you ready to go?" I'm like, "Sure, why not? Okay, fine." I was still in sutures. Still in stitches and sutures when I arrived in the Brooklyn house. Dissolvable, but sutures nonetheless. And that became really interesting. All my post-surgical care afterwards. And like the common misconception about the sexual reassignment surgery is that you have to keep it open as if it's going to magically go and close up. And I'm going to be a Barbie doll from like that point on. Not how that works. It's just to maintain depth and width. That's all, just to maintain elasticity. So I had to do what's called dilating, and pretty much they're stints and like go up in sizes. 1 being the thinnest, 4 being the thickest, and you dilate for X number of minutes or hours a day. And sort of like a 12-step program, or like Nicorette, you step down. Like after a while, you can step off of the certain sizes until you don't have to dilate anymore. At that point, you're hopefully having sex. Because afterwards, what's the point? That's like buying a $50,000 car and just keeping it in the garage. Like, I kind of wanted to take it for a test drive. Which I got to do after filming, and it is fabulous. So, yeah. Being on the show, I was introduced to some really interesting concepts, such as sexism, which I was on the receiving end of for the first time ever. Ain't that some bullshit? All of a sudden, evidently I did not know this, but I forgot how to drive. Evidently, the lack of external genitalia means that you cannot drive. The boys in the house were pretty much like, the girls don't know how to drive, the girls know what they're doing. I'm like, this is some bullshit. Like, not 6 months ago, I was a card-carrying member of your association, and now I forgot how to drive? Who the hell are you? So, thus my ghetto fabulous moments. You ain't my daddy, you ain't my boyfriend, don't tell me what to do. My Hialeah was showing, so I apologize. So yeah, very interesting concepts. Like, I've been discriminated against before for being trans, but never for being a woman, which is sort of like the nicest thing and the worst thing at the same time. It's like, I remember the first time I went home and my mom's like, "You're not going on that skirt, you look like a slut." I'm like, "Oh my God, Mother, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me." It was like a bittersweet moment, you know? It's like, well, it's great to be, counted as a woman, but don't do that again, I'll hurt you. Like, knock that shit out. So, yeah. There's a lot of really interesting things I could talk about, but I don't want to ramble on for too long. I want to give you guys the chance to ask some questions. Typically, whenever I open up to Q&A, here's what happens. I say, "Does anyone have any questions?" And then I hear crickets chirping. Because someone's afraid that they're going to ask something that might offend me. Y'all can't offend me if you tried. I promise. And if you do, I'll cut a bitch. So it's okay. It's okay. I don't think many people here have a trans friend or know many trans people or have even seen a trans person, present company excluded. So you're going to have some questions. And I'm going to be open and brutally honest because I would rather you not know and ask and get a valid, educated answer than just presume to keep on not knowing. So that being said, I'm going to open up to some questions. And if you don't ask questions, I'll call your asses out. Like if I see you in the back, like nodding off, you will be called on. Just like any other lecture that you're paying for, welcome to transgenderism, like 301. Like this is, I'll call you out. I hope you're taking notes. There will be a quiz later. So, yeah, does anyone have any burning questions? Yeah.
Actually, I have a couple. My first one is like, what was your name when you were born, and also what made you choose the name Kaitlyn? Like what?
Okay. Well, for the first part, we don't speak about the Dark Ages. Well, the reason why is that I unfortunately represent a good portion of the trans community, and when people typically ask that question, like what was your birth name or what was your real name, is what I typically get at some colleges, as if to say the name I'm currently using is somehow fake. So my name now is my legal name, but I don't reveal my birth name because it's very degrading to trans women. It overlays a sense of gender identity that they don't associate with. And the rebuttal to that, I guess, like, well, come on, Kaitlyn, everyone knows that Marilyn Monroe is Norma Jean. Like, come on, just tell us, we want to know. But the problem is that whether she's Marilyn Monroe or Norma Jean, she's still a woman. So if I'm like, oh, hey, like, my name was Bob, which it wasn't, I was blah, 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 it overlays a sense of maleness, which has nothing to do with who I am or how I've ever identified. But how I chose the name Kaitlyn, because again, I'm a geek, very logical. I went through my elementary and middle school yearbooks, and I found a very common name for the years that I was, went through school. And I did what most trans women do. I spelled completely and totally wrong. So, which by the way, if there are any trans women here in the audience, we need to stop the madness. No more of these stripper names. No more echinacea, Benadryl, Propecia. Like, no more Michelle with 3 Y's and 2 P's. Like, knock that shit out. This is a PSA. That is not cute. Stop it. We are not strippers. Friends don't let friends choose stripper names. So, that's how I arrived at the name Kaitlyn. Any other questions?
I'm going to pass around the mic. So
Oh,
just
cool.
because they're filming, so I'll take the mic, have them say it, and then I'll bring it back to you.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
So questions? How long did it take for your family to accept you after your post-operation?
Okay.
His job.
Yes, it is. Or if you want, we can just call them and I can repeat the question.
Oh yeah, that works too.
Okay. Well, my family, it was really difficult because my family's very traditional, and my mother's knee-jerk response was, why can't you just find a nice Italian girl? And I'm like, Mom, I am a nice Italian girl. Get used to it. So it took a long while for my family to actually accept me. As trans people, we have to be very caring and open to the feelings of our family as well, because we have to understand that they have to mourn the loss of a child. Like, we might have felt our gender identity for our entire lives, but they carried a child, they named a child, they raised it and socialized a child a certain way. So for my family, they very much had to mourn the death of a son before they could celebrate the life of a daughter. So it took a good 2 or 3 years. It wasn't until right before I moved to Montana. It's like you had to choose the 11th hour. Like, I'm leaving now, and now you're going to finally come around. But when I say family, I really just mean my mother, who's like the matriarch. My sister was so cool. She's like, I finally get a sister, yay! Because I'm the oldest of 4, and I have like 2 brothers and a sister. So my sister was like, yay, yata! My brothers was kind of interesting because I would come home dressed all cute, and their friends would be like, your sister's so hot. And they're like, must not tell a dark family secret. So it was a little rough on them. But it took a while. And now I have a normal, like, mommy-daughter relationship, which I don't know why I was so looking forward to that. I just turned 25, so she's like, when are you getting married? When can I expect kids? Or on the show, because it aired Wednesday nights, and even though I got advance copies, I would never send them to my parents. Though I dreaded Thursday morning, because I get that phone call. What were you wearing? Why did you say that? So, yeah, I have a very normal relationship with my parents now, but it took a long time to get to that point. But we're cool now. So, next question. Yes?
If you have a family in the future, do you plan on telling them everything?
The question was, if I have a family in the future, do I plan on ever telling the fact that I was transgender? Yeah, I probably will, but not until my kids are either in college or afterwards, just because I don't believe in passing on any sort of burden or emotional trauma to your kids. Sort of like, let the kid come into their own first and then tell them about you. Because if you share too much, you kind of freak the kid out. Like, I did not even know when I was 16 that I was conceived in Texas. Like, Mom, you could have really have not shared that information, I would have been fine. So it all depends on how I step into my family. If I do like retreat back to corn country and start just like raising kids with my boyfriend, then I'm sure, yeah, at one point in time I'll tell them, but not until they've had their chance to be a kid. Like, don't pass on that sort of responsibility or that those feelings to them. That being said, my children will be so well adjusted. It is not even funny. Like you, yeah. Next question. Yes.
Can you orgasm?
Oh, yes, I can. Well, okay, that was one of my concerns. That's why I picked my surgeon, was that he has a 95% sensitivity rate, but it's like still there's that 5%. And when they say the best things in life are free, they're not talking about love, they're talking about orgasms. So it took me a while for like nerve endings to sort of like reconnect. But I remember I was in the Brooklyn house because I was dilating, and I figured, well, if I'm gonna be down there anyway, why not take it for a test drive? And poor production must have gotten more footage of me orgasming than they did of me doing anything else. But it's fabulous. Oh my God. Like, especially like the multiples. Oh. Men are missing out. Y'all getting gypped. Like, it gets to a point now where I'm with my boyfriend and it's sort of like, don't look at me, don't touch, nothing, just like turn around. If you look at me, it might happen again, and I just can't live through that. I can't live through one more, it'll kill me. So yes, I can, it's fabulous. I apologize to people over here, this is where my bangs fall, so I might ignore you. Feel free to jump up, I'll see you. Next question. Oh, see, it's happening. Don't make me call on you. Okay, yes.
Are we gonna see any other shows for MTV, like Not Lit, Jewel?
Oh, hell yes. But here's why. All right, so they're showing The Duel 2 now on MTV, but they're currently filming another season of The Pit right now in Thailand, which sucks because they flew everyone out a few weeks ago, and it interfered with my college speaking tour, so I'm like, all right, fine, I'll get you guys next time. But the people that from my season are going to be on there are going to be Chet and Sarah. Like, I told Chet, don't even bother unpacking. Like, when they're picking out bunks, just say, no, it's cool, I'll sleep on the floor because I'm going right back home. And Sarah's very like, don't fight, let's think about our feelings. So I'm gonna have to be on challenge to show them that not everyone in Brooklyn was a pansy. So it's gonna be down to like Diva and I, because we don't get that. So I do plan on being on at least one challenge because it's an experience. So gotta do it once. Yeah.
Do you feel like MTV makes you the character that they want you to be? Like they would show certain parts. Is that true?
Well, yeah, because during the casting process, as you start to whittle down when they get to like their top 20, they actually have a team of psychologists come in and do a psychological workup on every single person. And they say, this is how this person's going to react underneath this circumstance. Here's what you have to do to press their buttons. And then they create a storyboard around that profile. So keep in mind, they had over 3,000 hours of footage per person. There were 8 of us. So 24,000 hours of footage plus another few hundred for all like the scenery hours. They're whittled down to 13 42-minute episodes. So you only got to see the top 1%. And if you didn't adhere to the storyline that they had boarded for you, you got edited out. See Bea. So besides, we're all kind of big characters on the real world Ryan Conklin anyway. Like, here's the golden child. The editors had a hard-on for Ryan. Whatever, fine. So yeah, MTV really does create a character of you. I mean, it's you, and you have to accept responsibility for everything that you say and do on the show, because obviously it's you. It's like, candid camera, bitch. That was really you sliding down that pole. So you have to own up to that, but at the same time, it's not within the same context of who you are. It's just like that dramatic 1% of your life where you're either all emo or you're all crazy, or I missed an estrogen dose and I was ready to kill somebody. And that's what made it to air, or to the dailies. So, next question. Hi, don't make me, okay.
Well, how was it coming out to the people that you lived in the house with?
How was it coming out to the people in the house? That's kind of tough because the only people I got to come out to of my own volition were Sarah and Bea. And Sarah's from San Francisco. She's like, and? You know, so it's like you're trans? Okay, cool, whatevs. Like, we cool. And Bea from Salt Lake, she's like, I don't know anyone. She asked a million questions, which was great. The women were actually really supportive and positive. That being said, there was like this little troll. I don't know if you knew him. His name is JD. Who went around telling my business, and which is in violation of queer charter, like section 3, subsection B, where like thou shalt not out a fellow member kind of deal. We're revoking his card because we're friendly people. We don't smash tables or throw phones. So yeah. So I was really kind of outed to the rest of the house via JD, which is kind of, okay, he threw more things in the Hudson River than the entire mafia during the late 80s. Like, there's more cheaply crafted IKEA furniture right now at the bottom of that lake. So it was great getting to come out to them on a one-on-one basis and really feel that connection. The women were so positive and so strong this season, and I'm so upset that that never got shown. That you had 4 amazingly strong women from completely different backgrounds who thought completely and wildly differently, who came together, and they could not show not one clip, not 1 minute of us being catty to one another, talking behind each other's backs, being mean to one another. If we had issues, it was discussed immediately, it resolved, and we went from there. How positive of a message would that have been to all the young women? Because our demographic for real world is like ages 12 to 17. Like, it's not very, like, it's that middle school sort of demo. And that, I think, would have been so positive for young girls growing up to see that. Like, you don't have to be bitches. Like, it's okay. You can be normal. Well, ish. So, any more questions? Over here, this side is very, sort of, yes.
Do you still talk to everyone from the show?
Yeah, I keep in close contact with all the girls. We're actually planning a camping trip. We have to get a cabin, otherwise Devin won't come. But the girls are really close, and I still talk to Scott on a regular basis. He's like my big brother. So Scotty the hottie and I were still like really close. First time I saw those abs, and like when we were like first night in the hot tub and he took off his shirt, I'm like, shit, my relationship is in trouble. Oh, I just want to bite him. Just. I'm so close. I'm closer with some of my cast rather than others. Ryan, don't really need to bother. Chet, we still like to prank call each other. Like Chet and I will still prank each other. And JD can die in a fire. I don't. You might see us together. It's purely professional, I assure you. So yeah, that's the deal with everyone from the show. Yeah. Yeah, I am. My boyfriend and I, we've been together for 3 years. Still no ring. And I turned 25 too, so I have given him 18 months. I'm like, you need to make up your mind soon because I'm getting too old for this shit. Like, I can't be dating people for 4 or 5 years and then not be getting married. I'm getting too old. I'm not gonna wind up like a country western song. That's not gonna happen. But we're still together and we're still going strong somehow. Relationships are tough. They're even tougher. And it takes a really strong man to love a trans woman. And I've said that for a long time because they have to sort of reconcile their sexual identity against your gender identity. And it's really great. The story of my boyfriend and I didn't really get played on the show, but we had met in high school. We had a mutual friend, and all 3 of us were martial artists. And our mutual friend, Jeremy, thought it'd be really cute if we would spar together. So for a lot of girls, it's love at first sight. For me, it was love at first fight. Like, him and Scott are the only 2 men that I know that could stand toe-to-toe with me in a sparring ring and still have all their teeth. So I was all like, wow, you're not worthless. Oh my God. I want to have your kids. Like 12,000 of them, because I'm Sicilian and that's what we do. So my boyfriend and I were still together, and relationships ain't easy, but we're working it. Yeah.
Can you get pregnant?
I wish. No, haha, all of your strengths, none of your weaknesses. No, I cannot. Took you a minute. And isn't it funny how you spend like the first 20 years of your life avoiding getting pregnant, then you spend the next 20 trying to get pregnant? I know. No, I cannot personally get pregnant, but thankfully I have an amazing sister who has offered to be a surrogate should I require her services. Yeah, I'm kind of lucky. I'm a lucky bitch. So, Yeah. Scanning. Yes. Oh no. No, I do not identify, and I do not identify as Catholic. I'm a very spiritual person. I mean, if you want my dogma, I'm a naturalistic pantheist. But I attend and go to a Unitarian Universalist church. It's sort of like the hippie, huggy, touchy-feely, like we love everybody sort of church. So yeah, I'm Unitarian. Yes. No, I don't have periods. I don't have to go through menopause. I actually, because I went through it first, like when I first started estrogen, I just get to step down lightly. So I already had the hard end of menopause first. So now I just get to like slowly lower my dosage, and then I'm estrogen free. No, because I don't have any of that internal piping. So, and science is still a long way away from uterine transplants. So, unfortunately, it'd be great to have kids. Like when I had my final consultation with my surgeon in Thailand, he gives you your medical paperwork, which, for instance, long write-up of, I'm this surgeon, here's where I went to school, here's the surgery that was performed, here's why it was medically necessary, blah, blah, blah. And patient Kaitlyn should be considered a legally infertile female. And the words infertile female jumped out. It's like they jumped out and bitch slapped me from the page. Because growing up, all I wanted to be was a mom. Like that was it. I just want to get married one day and have kids. Like I'd run around with the pillow sheet on my head, and sometimes it was a flying nun, but most of the time it was a wedding. So to see the words infertile female there, it was devastating. Because as one life goal was achieved, and I experienced so much joy as a result of it, another one was just obliterated. So while I'll get to have a mother through either adoption or surrogacy or whatever avenues I choose to pursue, I'll never know what it's like to carry a child. Fortunately, I'll never have to have a period either. And it's weird, by the way, getting to talk about periods, because I remember the first time I was in a women's restroom, and this girl comes out, and she's having a horrible day, and she's like, girl, I am on my period. And I'm like, whoa, what? Congratulations. Like, I don't know. Do you want some cake? Like what do I say? I didn't know how to relate. You know, being socialized, no, you never taught any of that. So you don't talk about your feelings, let alone, dear God, that, you know. And it's like, okay, awesome, a zygote is dying inside of you. Congrats. So, I don't personally trust anything that bleeds for 5 days and doesn't die, but all right. Ooh, I've managed to offend someone in Sonoma, wow. I knew it would happen eventually. So, no, I cannot ever have a period, thank God. Any other questions? Yes.
I saw in a class once that some people that are trans women, they go through classes to learn how to actually act like a woman.
Right.
When you went to therapy, did you go through any of that?
No, my therapy was strictly psychological because I needed a lot of it. Yeah, some trans women, unfortunately, they have to go through that sort of feminization. They have to have someone to teach them how to shop or how to move, or even how to talk, or how to integrate into society, because we're never taught that growing up. We're socialized completely differently, and life is different on the other side of the spectrum. So it is something that some trans women have to do. I did not personally have to experience that. So. Yes?
Does your boyfriend's family accept you?
My boyfriend's family, I think, likes me more than they like him. Like, it's kind of bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Like, for my birthday this year, his mom sent me a shirt that says, "Mom likes me best," sort of deal. Like, his family is really, like, they're sort of, like, strange and hippie-ish, so when they learned that I was transgender, they kind of like me more as a result of it, in, like, a really weird way. His dad will call it my boyfriend, and be like, "Why haven't you married Kate yet? Like, when are you gonna get on that?" So it's nice, like, the family roots for me. I'm totally one of them, which is a little scary, actually, but yeah, his family accepts me. Anything else? Oh, right there. And then, yeah.
What advice would you give to a Sonoma State student who might be questioning their own gender identity?
The advice I would give to a Sonoma State student that would be questioning their own identity is there's no easy way to answer that without coming off sounding like a Hallmark card, like to thine own self be true. But a lot of the times we're our own harshest critic. So we'll look in the mirror and be like, well, I'm never going to be pretty enough. I'm never going to be woman enough. Or even for the flip side of that, for the men, because we have this weird sort of like patriarchal society, it's like I'm never going to be man enough, or however you identify. You really have to just learn to accept yourself. Especially for trans women, there is something beautiful about all women. Like if you have great ankles, girl, rock them ankles. Like just every woman has one quality or one trait that's beautiful about them. So if you're questioning your own sort of gender identity, just forget all the labels, forget all the nonsense, and really just do right by you. And it's not an easy process by any means, but it's hard to be comfortable with who you are. There are people who are 40 and 50 who have no idea who they are. And it's a journey. So just to thine own self be true. Yes.
So, do you have complete vaginal anatomy besides your reproductive organs?
Oh yeah. I went to go see a GYN after my surgery while I was in Brooklyn, and she was like, "Well, I had had you not told me, I would have had no idea." So everything works. We actually had, and it's never made to the show or any of the dailies, we had a vagina lineup because the boys were being all macho, like I could just see it, and I could tell, like Ryan and Scott. So I'm like, oh really? Really? Put your money where your mouth is. So we got a Polaroid, and Bea, Sarah, and I, because Devin's kind of disqualified. Hers is a little obvious. But we took a picture, and no one knew. They couldn't tell. So I passed that macho bravado thing. So yeah, it's all there. It's beautiful. And it's funny how much men don't know about female anatomy. Like, all they think there is to being a woman is a lack of a penis. And there's actual, like, their own set of genitalia, their own everything that has nothing to do with the presence or lack thereof of a penis. So, guys, you might want to go to biology. Yeah, I'll get to you.
It's an add-on. So, did that all come from what you used to have, or did they add things?
No, there wasn't like, it's all Katie, baby. I mean, like I have a Made in Thailand sticker, but like it's all me. No stray parts. Yeah.
How long did it take for everything to like heal properly and like be normal?
It really took a good 4 to 6 months before all the sutures were gone and like the pee didn't have a mind of its own. So yeah, it took about 6 months after the surgery before everything was fully recovered. Even if you have like breast augmentation, or for genetic women that have a vaginoplasty, like that kind of surgery, it takes a while for everything to heal up again before a lot of the scarring tissue subsides. So it took about 6 months before everything healed fully. Yes.
Was that then the amount of time before you could have sex then, or?
Well, my surgeon said to wait roughly 6 months before I had sex. So yeah. So yeah. If there's no other like really burning questions, we're gonna do a photo session. I have headshots that I'll autograph for people, and we can get photos for your new profile pic. And Janet, and if you have like any other question where like as I'm walking away you're like, damn it, I should have asked that, just I'll answer questions when I'm up there too. So yeah, so thanks for having me, Snowy. You guys have been great.